Good afternoon. My name is David Greenfield. I'm a city councilman representing Midwood, Borough Park, and Bensonhurst. We have a press conference here today to talk about the draconian cuts to childcare in the New York City budget. Specifically, there are $24 million of proposed cuts to Priority 7 and daycare centers. These cuts not only disproportionately impact Brooklyn children, but they disproportionately impact minority and religious children in Brooklyn as well. Simply put, it's our job to protect the most vulnerable. No one's more vulnerable than our children. I want to recognize quite a few elected officials. We actually have, I believe, 10 members of the City Council who are either here or represented today. L'cheiner and Mushlach. So I'd like to turn it over first to Councilmember Brad Lander to start things off. All right.
What we realized together was the Priority 7 vouchers also are a fundamental child care and after-school resource for Brooklyn kids, primarily in the Orthodox Jewish community. And so what Mayor Bloomberg's budget does is not only does it harm our kids, not only does it take away child care slots and after-school slots, but it represents a deep and disproportionate cut to Brooklyn. And that's true in daycare and in after school. It's represented in both the center cuts and Priority 7. And that's why you really see an unprecedented gathering both in communities and of Brooklyn council members. So we're going to talk a little bit more about those issues, but I think the fundamental issue is that a much too high percentage of the cuts, well over half the cuts on the daycare center side and nearly all the cuts on the Priority 7 side are coming at Brooklyn kids. And we're standing here to say to Mayor Bloomberg, in this $64 billion budget, we can find the $24 million that we need to take care of Brooklyn kids, of all of Brooklyn kids. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Councilmember Levin, represents large swaths of Williamsburg, to address us.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Greenfield. What you see here, this wide array of people and representatives and advocates from across Brooklyn is really speaking to the diversity of Brooklyn and the diversity of what these cuts mean. These cuts do not discriminate across communities. They are affecting everybody, but disproportionately they are affecting Brooklyn. And that's why you see a lot of Brooklyn council members here and a lot of Brooklyn leaders here. When it comes to the daycare center cuts, as Councilmember Lander mentioned, 10 out of 16 cuts are coming at the expense of Brooklyn daycare centers. These are centers that are providing a free and affordable daycare to our kids that make it possible for families to go to work, families to earn a living. And without those resources, not only do our kids suffer for future generations, but our families are suffering, and it's something that we have to stand united and say, not this time, we can find these resources. And likewise with Priority 7 vouchers through ACS, this is a lifeline for families, who otherwise would not be able to use publicly funded daycare programs and after-school programs. This is a way in which, again, families are able to go out, to make a living, to do what they have to do to support their families. This is what we need to give as a society to make sure that families are able to make it. It's a tough economy, not only for us as a city, but for the families that we here in government are there to represent. And so it is our duty, it is our obligation to make sure that these cuts are restored, because it is disproportionately affecting folks from Brooklyn, working families in Brooklyn, and families that need to get by and need a little bit of a helping hand from the city. So I stand here in solidarity with everyone here across the broad spectrum of viewpoints and communities in Brooklyn to say, not this time. Let's restore these cuts and make sure that we do what's right for our kids. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
You know, myself and Brad and Steve, we're the new kids on the block. We're lucky that we have a lot of senior people here, and especially Councilmember Lew Fidler, who's a member of the Speaker's leadership team. He's been someone who's always been very active on these issues, especially the child care and the voucher cuts, so we'd like to ask him to speak as well.
Thank you. And I want to start by thanking the new kids on the block, particularly Councilman Greenfield, for organizing this together and actually showing the symbiosis of these two issues and how they really do affect a broad spectrum in Brooklyn and for childcare. So I just want to say a couple of things very briefly. The first of which is, it is wrong when you budget to make a family choose between being able to go to work and take care of their family and having to come home instead and take care of their children. That just doesn't make sense. It's not a smart budget priority. It's not good for the tax base. It's not good for families, and it's not good for children. About the two separate cuts, when the real estate market in the city of New York and renegotiate leases with all daycare providers, because you take advantage of the market. Wouldn't cost them a dime. They said it was too much work to do. Instead, they choose to close 16 daycare centers, and I submit to you that it's absolutely unnecessary. As to the priority 7 vouchers, it's amazing that last year, in the miracle of an election year, Mayor Bloomberg found the money to restore the priority 7 vouchers. Well, I got to tell you something. We need that miracle again this year. There is no election for him to face. He just has to look himself in the mirror, address his conscience, and decide whether or not what he did last year, if it was good last year, whether it's good this year too. I call upon the mayor to restore that money and to restore it now. Thank you.
Now with us the Brooklyn delegation chair, leader in our Brooklyn community, Councilmember Erik Dilan as well. Erik.
Just very briefly, because a lot of what I said has been said already, but just traditionally, this delegation, whether it's the old kids on the block or the new kids on the block, have traditionally stood up for daycares in this city, whether it be Councilmember de Blasio when he was here, Councilmember Reyna has traditionally done it. So to a person in the delegation, this is something that we stood up for. I know a lot of my newer colleagues have taken the lead on this issue. But they have come to myself and the co-chair, Tish James, and asked that we make this a delegation priority.
We're not standing here in a drizzle because you have nothing better to do today. We're standing here because this happens to be an extremely important issue. As my colleague Tish James has stated, I believe, it's a coalition of blacks and black hats. But not only, we have Puerto Ricans, we have Italians, we have every ethnic group standing together because we all love our families and we all love our children. So that's why we're here today, to help restore this particular insane subtraction from the city budget. And as Lew Fidler said, it was good last year and it is still good this year and will be good for many years to come to keep us all together as a strong city. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Greenfield. You said it properly. We are united, and we are united to do what we believe is right, to protect the children. We stand here together in opposition of the closing of the daycare center. The daycare centers represent a very safe and affordable option for the parents. The parents want to go to work. They want a place, they need a place where to put their children. And also this is going to affect not only the children, but also the parents and the families, and also the other daycare centers. They will have to take more children, and that is going to create a problem also. And we got to say that. It is wrong to do it. We know that the city is facing a very difficult time, but we have to prioritize the program for the children. We are going to continue to work together, to fight together, to protect the daycares. Let's continue to work together. And we want to send a very strong message. We care about our children.
Let's keep it real. We have people behind us, communities, that are not always together on all the issues. I hope we be together on more issues, but we're definitely united on this one. The daycare are extremely important, whether it's ACS or Priority 7 vouchers. For more than one reason. Not only do we need places to keep our children so we can go to work, the most critical time when a child learns is before the age of 5. This is proven. This is the time that they have to learn when they're in these daycares. The only way to get out of our economic problems is if we properly educate our young people. And the mayor keeps continuing to attack things that deal with education of our young people, and to deal with and attacks things that allow our parents to subsist so they can work and feed our young people. And these daycares hold both of those. They allow our parents to go to work so they can provide food on the table, and they allow a place for our children to learn at the most critical time in their life. There are other things that we can do, and there are other things that we must do, and you can see here it's getting dangerous because you got community united. we're not going to let it stand. Thank you.
Critical issue is childcare. My particular focus is on the priority 7 childcare vouchers, which has been an issue of great concern to us for many, many years. This is not the first time we've had this type of conversation. It's not the first time we've had this type of gathering. About a year ago, we stood at these very steps and brought together letters signed by parents objecting to proposed cuts. At that time, 30,000 letters signed by parents in our community objecting to the proposed cuts in the program that year. What those letters showed was that this is an issue which is of critical importance, not just in terms of the economics of our community, but in terms of the social well-being not only of children but of families across the board.